It's supposed to be heard this week. Which way?
Welcome, and we'll wait for the left.
Bob Leonard. I'm interested in this subject because I've got a manufacturing company that does metal. There's demand for natural fiber forming, so trying to find out if that's an option.
Hi everyone, I'm Michelle Selzer, and in this capacity I'm very interested in regulation and policy around in Michigan, in particular the industrial hemp aspect. And in my day job I work for the Office of the Great Lakes, so I do a lot of facilitation, policy development, and working with communities, protection and restoration activities around water quality, and in particular the Great Lakes.
I'm Brandy Zink. I work at Cannabis Council, the marijuana law firm, with Matthew Abel and Thomas Levine, my bosses here, the partners. I'm involved with the cannabis movement for a long time, but I'm trying to help bring all these great minds together and bring the industry, bring the investors, actually a reality in Michigan.
I'm Matthew Abel. I'm a lawyer at Cannabis Council, and I'm the director of Michigan NORML, also on the board of Michigan Hemp, and want to see it all become legal.
I'm Thomas Levine. I'm a partner at Cannabis Council Law Firm, and I'm very interested in advancing industrial hemp.
I'm Joel Malinsky. I guess really 30 days, maybe since Halloween, I've become active in this general area. Primarily my background is I'm an interactive industrial training design and developer, and I think Yvonne came up with an outcome of calling that component hemp industrial training, and we're sure it'll be a hit as an acronym.
Hello, I'm Robert Lutke. I'm a business consultant helping companies grow and improve through people, process, technology, and innovation. Background in ISO 9000, have had a personal interest in learning more about industrial hemp because of some of my work in Asia and China and Europe, finding it rather intriguing that we in the United States don't have the advantage of the low cost and quite functional, non-mind destroying industrial hemp. So I hope to be of value and service to all of you. I've got some technology available to you. We can talk about that at a later point in time. And I'm also more than willing to provide the hosting for meetings like this so that should you guys desire, you don't necessarily even have to leave your office. You can go to meetings. So thank you very much for allowing me to attend. And Brandy, it's nice to meet you.
Thank you. Welcome aboard. Andrea?
I can't hear you.
Hold on.
There we go.
There we go.
I'm muting because I'm multitasking, of course. Hi, everybody. I'm Andrea Herman. I've had the pleasure of meeting or speaking with most of you. So I guess a little bit about myself. I've been working in Canada for the last 15 years with industrial hemp, and I am from Joplin, Missouri, and right now just getting ready to enter our last week of school at OSU, so lots of students clamoring to get all that done. I think everybody kind of knows where I'm from and what I do.
Well, great. Well, welcome everyone. And on the phone, Albert?
Yeah.
Hi. Go ahead.
My name's Everett Swift. I'm the Executive Director of the Michigan Industrial Hemp Education and Marketing Project, also known as MIHA-Think or Michigan Hemp. And I'm just glad to see this topic being discussed.
Thank you. So then I'll go ahead and I'll turn it over to Matt, and I believe Steve might weigh in a little bit on this, but you got about 15 minutes to talk about the status of hemp in Michigan and kind of where you see it going. What do we need to be mindful of as we develop this concept further?
Well, I think Steve's more the expert in this than I am. He's been both to D.C. and financing, lobbying on both We have copies of, there's a federal bill that's passed,
Correct.
and there are state bills that are pending, so I'll let Steve give us detail about
The
that.
state bills are HB 5439 and HB 5440.
Okay, and so I don't want to interrupt you, but I've got copies, like maybe you can share with your neighbor and I'll pass those out.
Okay. 5439 is a copy and paste from the federal government. They just wanted to make sure that we were in line with what the federal government passed last February. I was there right before they did that. I went into Abenal's office along with many other offices with Ben Droz and the Vote Hemp people. That was quite entertaining to be able to go down to the Capitol and Congress and eat lunch with them folks, and they just look at you like you're one of them once you come in with a suit and tie. You know, they start listening to this. And okay. And so what they did in Representative Daley's office is taken and copy and pasted the federal part onto the Michigan one. And then 5440 is taken the terminology away from the Controlled Substance Act, so that it is no longer considered a controlled substance, that we can deal with it in an agricultural way. And that was due to Representative Peter Patalia and all the work that Everett Swift did up north.
So
Thank you, Everett.
Thank you, Everett.
And happy
Thank you, guys.
birthday, Everett.
Oh, thank you. Another year older, I dread that.
So not more than 0.3% basis makes it.
Correct. Less than 1% is how it is termed, I do believe. And where it sits right now is my representative is Mike Shirkey from my district in Jackson, and he became senator. And now he went into Senator Hume's office and asked him what the status was, and they're supposed to be heard the first week because they're sitting in Senator Hume's Agriculture Committee, and until he hears that bill passed out of his committee, it won't go to the full Senate. What we're trying to do is lame duck because of all the marijuana bills that are going through at the same time. I think they're kind of holding things up, and they're going to run everything through at once. I believe. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on with the dispensary bills and things. So that has nothing to do with this, but it does because it's in the same plant structure. So I think that they're just trying to get all their ducks in order. I had a call from the governor's office, some people that work with him, and they wanted to know what bill numbers that I had. And I was working on for the industrial hemp, so that they were, and what they told me was it's so far under the radar. So many important things. There's so much money going to planting on this. That really isn't on the radar. And I said it's a shame because they don't know what this is going to do. This is a brand new industry for Michigan, brand new oldest industry.
Yeah.
And it can change our future of Michigan. It can.
So can you just speak a little bit about what the federal and state bills contain within them, the language? As I understand, it's pretty specific to research. So,
Well, because, yes, it's up to the universities, higher education. So what they've done in Michigan is also included that any money and grant money and that comes into this program stays in this program. It can't go to the general fund. So if somebody was to put money in there and it never got used, it still sits in there until somebody wants to do that research with that. But you can also get companies like Ford has the Ford Foundation. You can get grants from them to do research. My understanding is out of Washington, Ford has told people that they'll buy any crop. As soon as somebody has a hemp crop in the United States, they're going to buy it. Available. They'll deal with it, though. I've been to their headquarters. I've been everywhere before I ever met Andrea or Michigan Hemp or anything. I was going right to Ford. I went to their headquarters. I'm going to get hemp legal, and they have to help me lobby it. They went, no, we're not going to help you. That was basically it.
okay.
So, other than that, we're just kind of hit a standstill until this week. Let's see what happens. Right now, if you can pull up Senator Hume's office, you can pull up On the bottom of that is his committee and minutes in that. They have 18 hours to give us notice for a meeting. That's all they have to by law. They have to give us 18. Tomorrow, it would have been posted by 5 o'clock today. So we can find out.
It's not on.
So if it was not on, I think 5195 was his last one on his page.
Okay.
Oh, we won't hear it then, but I have a call in today again. Nobody's getting back with me. Representative Daly, he's the sponsor of 5439, and his office hasn't got back with me. I got back with them last week trying to get this pushed through and get as much information as I can so that I'm ready. I was trying to get Andrea to come in also since she does business here in Detroit. Could she schedule that for this week to where if we did have the hearings in Lansing, we could get the world's leading expert. That'd be much better for her to answer these questions than myself. I mean, they asked some questions, but all of the legislatures in the House, when they were questioning us, already knew the answers to this. And they already had the emperor wears no clothes. The guy had the book sitting right there.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Who had the book? One of the senators?
yeah, one of the representatives, House reps.
Kid, what book?
The emperor wears no clothes.
Yeah,
So,
that one.
yeah, I thought that was pretty good. But, you know, what was nice is there's 110 representatives. You have one sponsor, and 109 of them agreed on this. The only reason on 5440 we got 108 to 1 was Peter Patalia had a problem with that other representative that there was something in some bill going on. Peter wouldn't go along with it, so he wasn't getting his unanimous decision, which is pretty special. You can't get 110 people to agree on anything.
Mm-hmm.
To get them to pass this unanimously, and if they would have passed both of them, would have been a big staple for us.
Mm-hmm.
But he wanted to just make sure out of spite, and it was somebody out of Detroit.
So do you feel pretty confident that these bills are going to move? And
I believe, yeah, I believe they're going to be passed in lame duck.
Okay.
This doesn't have anything to do with getting high, it has everything to do with industry.
Right.
So to hold these up over cannabis issues has nothing to do with it. But since I was a lobbyist on this, the way that I was able to do this is, here's cannabis and here's hemp. And I went through and I explained both of them. If they had questions, I talked to both of them just like an adult. You got a question about pot, we'll talk about pot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and what they stated was I was the only one that would do that. Hemp people will not talk about pot, and pot people don't want to talk about hemp. So they were really happy that any question that they ever had. So we had a problem with Michigan Normal. Somebody in the group, or maybe not, was calling up the senators' offices trying to lobby, trying to do stuff over the medical marijuana bill that we're going through. And one of the senators called me and said, is this your organization? And they were very rude. And I said, no, that wasn't us, and it wasn't one Michigan Hemp. So I went up the very next day. I said, this is what hemp is, this is what we do, this is what Michigan Normal does too, because we're for industrial hemp also. So it was easy to at least quash that. No other senators' offices have contacted me over that. But at least when they talk in their little room. So all of the liaisons talk. So they know that Michigan Normal is represented well, Michigan Hemp is represented well.
So if we
Do
could just take
you find that this is a continuous problem? Because in some of the work that I've done, I've seen there's such a dichotomy. You've got people that focus on the marijuana side, and then you've got the people focusing on the industrial hemp side. And none of the politicians seem to be educated, have no idea as to the history of why inappropriately industrial hemp was, shall we say, characterized as evil. And I'm just wondering, are you finding that also?
Well, yeah. Well, they want to know. They think that you can get high on hemp, and I have to explain that.
Precisely.
So what I have a binder that has everything in it. I go through, this is hemp, this is where it became illegal, this is why it became illegal, this is what we're trying to do, get it back here as an economy again. So, and I actually have two of them. Here's marijuana, here's hemp. Here's the law that went with this. Here's the stuff that went with this. Representative Shirky gave me a 45-minute meeting. usually you get 5 minutes. And that first 5 minutes, if you don't do it, you're out. That's it.
Correct.
I got an hour and a half. Because I told him, if you want to talk about marijuana, you got to make another meeting. I'm here over industrial health. And he went, okay, he kept pushing, so then I broke out both books. So I told him, I don't have but 45 minutes. Well, he gave me the hour and a half. There was a lot of upset people out in that office when I came out.
So if we
Carrying my little brown box of cereal. And
that's great.
Thank you.
So if we can just take the remaining few minutes, a couple other aspects I think that might be important as we move forward here. What are the regulatory considerations that we need to start thinking about if we were to develop this concept and bring it to the state? You know, what are some of the things that we need to think about there? Are there existing, you know, mechanisms in place or agencies that you feel we may want to approach?
there's going to have to be an agency to run this because you only have food and fiber and fuel stock. So what you're going to do is crossbreed this, and farmers are going to want to keep their seeds. So you don't want to be growing fiber down where this fiber is going to pollinate the food seed. So you're going to have to keep everything kind of separated in the state. So one area would be able to grow that seed crops for the food purposes. The other one is going to be able to do it for the fiber because that's a different one. You're not really going after the seed on that.
Department of Agriculture and Rural
Correct.
Development being the umbrella organization.
That-
I know in
that's-
Canada, it's Health Canada that's actually in OMAFRA that are the entities. But just curious to know.
I would believe it's going to be the Agriculture Committee that's going to put the rule together, and that's not the health, because we're dealing with an industrial product here, not a health product. Until they get, and then they go, well, this is a health product.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a couple of comments. Absolutely, this should be under the umpus of the Agricultural Department. Absolutely, considered as an agricultural crop functioning underneath whatever standing pedigree seed production that you have in place there. One of the things that you said, I do believe, Stephen, that you were speaking about the requirement for cultivation of fiber in one area and food crops in another. I don't think that's necessarily true. You can have that side production. It more depends on the varieties that you're growing for those different applications. And typically when they're harvesting for fiber only for non-wovens, composites types of scenario, they're taking that down as the males start to pollinate, but the females aren't quite receptive yet. So I don't know about saying that one region has to be a fiber region and one region has to be a grain region, especially when we don't know what that looks like yet.
Okay.
Fair point. Then can we talk a little bit about the potential for hemp in Michigan specifically? I'm aware that there are several, you know, mom and pop companies that use hemp as a stock for food and fiber. Significant companies out there that are actually using hemp currently?
No, but I have been in contact with the Kellogg cereal company over this and the county commissioners in Calhoun County.
I think
and what cereal was.
Absolutely. I mean, there's some other things we have to overcome when we start to look at wanting to lapse into Kellogg, such as the GRAS certification. You know, as a sales and marketing manager at Hempel Canada for over 5 years, and definitely know that Kellogg's has called for samples before, but part of that roadblock is this GRAS certification, which is generally recognized as safe. It's only bound in the United States and is something that through, you know, efforts of HIA and our state chapters and the Canadian Hemp Trade Alliance, looking to see how we could move forward with getting these products certified as GRAS so you can reach into the Nabiscos and Crafts and Kellogg's of the world. But I think if you look at infrastructure that already exists within the state, whether that be oil crushers and flour millers, those types of things already exist. Seed cleaners, on-farm machinery that would need to be done, hopper bottom bins, all of that type of infrastructure exists.
So machinery that's currently used in the cropping systems can be applied to hemp?
Absolutely. With some maybe minor on-farm modifications that may or may not need to be made, but essentially when it comes to using the equipment, if you're taking down other grain crops, you can use that same equipment to harvest industrial hemp. It just depends on what you're growing the hemp for. And we know that the varieties that we're currently growing in the southern part of Canada will more than likely work in Michigan.
When it comes down to the oil, is a cold press that some of these farmers do have, they're able to make their own oil? Cold pressing like they would soybean?
Absolutely. The same machines that crush soybeans, sunflowers, canola, wheat oil, any of those seeds and nut grain oil can crush hemp.
Great.
The same seed cleaners that are cleaning all the other grains can clean the hemp. So all that infrastructure already exists.
So
I have a question for you, Andrea.
Yep.
I've always heard that one of the basic modifications you usually have to make if you're growing for fiber is you might have to modify the blades of the equipment or sharpen them more often. Have you found that to be true?
Well, you're going to want to make sure everything is sharp and as tight as possible. I mean, that's one of the #1 rules. Just coming from the Canadian Hemp Trade Alliance conference and our farming panel, you know, one of the things that one of the farmers is on his 7th year growing, he said taking the extra 3 or 4 hours or the whole day, let's say, to prep your combine to harvest hemp is so worth it with the ease in the backside of it. Making sure everything's sharp and running slow in the field, really just slowing everything down, and then also getting out and looking at your rig so as you start to harvest so that you have an idea about what's going on with it. But yes, if you're going to harvest for fiber only, you'll harvest with different types of equipment than what you're going to harvest if you're harvesting for grain or a potentially dual purpose. But right now, since we lack the fiber decortication facilities to focus on fiber, you know, it would be interesting, and my first and foremost call with what would need to happen within the state is variety trials. Before we kick open the door and allowing commercial production, is to actually use the Farm Bill and its current status as a jumping board to be able to bring in and start those variety trials.
Kentucky is doing that now, if I'm not mistaken. They're going to be doing a little more of the variety trials this next year, from what I've heard.
Yeah, I mean, it takes it to another legitimate stage. We've had really good reception with our trials that we're going to be doing in North Dakota. And, you know, just it's actually pretty easy as long as you have some sort of basic licensing structure in place. And it doesn't only have to be a university. If you look at the definition of what they say for higher academia, it can also be a technical school, any place that makes you employable after 2 years of education. So this can be a community college or, you know, a horticultural technical. We used to have something called Franklin Technical School that had a greenhouse program in it.
It's defined in the Farm Bill? Is that what you're referencing?
Yes, this is defined in the Farm Bill, and I did post a link on wherever the message board is that you can see me typing on.
That's great.
I posted that.
Robot.
In addition, as you start to think about this legislation play, I know it's on the agenda later. I'm not sure how long I'll be able to hang on, but is that Joy from the Washington Hemp Industry Association has put together a legislative binder that's really great that she does make available to groups working on, you know, on the state levels.
Great, thank you. Bob, you had a comment or a question?
I have a... Oh, go ahead, Bob.
Let Bob go.
Yeah. Well, just over the Monsanto's and the genetically modified grains that they do. Have you ran across this yet? Because I have heard that they do have the cannabis strains out there now that they're looking to do worldwide. So I'm wondering about the hemp, Andrea. You heard any working with the hemp?
No, I mean, from the HIA, the CHTA, the European Industrial Hemp Association, you know, Hemp and South Africa, all of these associations have put a ban on GMOing. Are you ever going to stop the Monsantos over the world? No, you're not. I mean, at the end of the story, that's a whole nother thing. We're not, I'm not actively working in that scope, or in our associations are not actively working in the scope. So in this case, it all comes down to what the contracts will say, whether or not the market holds true for non-GMO industrial hemp, or if the market allows GMO industrial hemp, because the Kellogg's of the world will buy GMO industrial hemp.
Right.
Good point.
Period. So
Well, the reason I asked that is through the legislature, Representative Daley wanted to change the color of this so that it didn't have a cannabis color from the air.
you know what, I got somebody who emailed me this last week saying that we should make it like yellow or blue. You know, and that we were smart people and that we could do it. Okay, well, great, yeah, we're smart people, but we're not going to do that, and it's not worth, I think, the energy spent on it when there's so many other good fish to fry than trying to beat some GMO that we're not going to be able to fight. If Monsanto wants to do it, they're going to do it one way or the other.
All right, so Bob?
In terms of symbology, are we talking about possibly a symbol that we here in Michigan can be using that would connote this is not marijuana versus industrial hemp?
It would have to be a grain sign instead of a leaf sign.
I think we might question.
I mean, you don't have to do that now, so to put that in the regulations on some product that was produced just because it was produced there, when we import product in all the time that doesn't have to have anything like that, I don't really see it either as where I would want to put my energy at.
I didn't hear the question that he asked.
I think we need
Oh,
to
I don't think Everett can hear you.
turn your volume up, Bob. Or when you ask a question, we'll repeat it, but we won't be able to succeed in asking comments. So we'll need to, the mic is there. We'll need to contain the robotic input.
Okay, well, I would just...
That's better.
Yeah, that's great.
Much better.
We can hear you now.
What I propose to do now, if there isn't any other
Discussion.
major comments or discussion around the topics that we've just covered, we can kind of move on now into brainstorm mode. If everyone's...
Can you guys see the agenda here on the screen? Is this of any value? Can you keep it up?
I think I'm appreciating the input that you're adding to the agenda. If other people are recognizing that Bob is kind of outputting on the agenda.
That's
I
great.
don't know if that's a conflict to what you're doing, Michelle.
I think we'll compare notes.
Compare notes.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
So it was just brought to my attention, I have an old agenda. So I guess we'll take a few minutes. I'm not sure who wanted to cover this, but we have MIHA-Think and Industries Association, so maybe just a few minutes on the background and sort of where that group is going and how we can help support the work that organizations are doing. Is that you, Everett?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Okay.
Why don't you take a couple minutes and speak to MIHA-Think, and Andrea will give you a few minutes once Everett's finished. Go ahead.
Okay, you need to go? I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing.
Yeah, you go ahead, Everett.
Oh, okay. Michigan Industrial Hemp Education and Marketing Project. We're an industrial hemp-only organization. That's all we deal with. We don't get involved in medical or recreational usage. We've been a small group with, right now we're having some challenges with funding, and the biggest thing is getting people involved. We need people to do the work that needs to be done with an organization. None of us gets paid, so it's very difficult to find dedicated people to do the work that needs to be done. If MIHA-Think to move forward, I think we need to find new blood and bring them in and kind of try to move it forward. I have announced recently that as soon as these two bills that are in the legislature now are finished, I'm going to have to step out. And I haven't really heard nothing from a lot of board members or members of, Matt and Steve. And we've got one other board member that occasionally jumps in and says something, and we've lost Diane. She's resigned now, so I think for MIHA-Think to move forward and push this forward, we need some people to step up to the plate. I hate to sound negative on a foot like this, but that's the way I see our organization standing right now.
One option is a possible merger of some sort.
Correct.
Merger.
Changing over
wondering
to
what kind of merger.
HIA.
This organization to find a way of working and assisting, perhaps. I mean, I don't want to jump the gun here because I do not wish to step on anybody's toes, but since I'm involved in a number of similar kinds of projects, if there's a way of the value add that your organization has put together, for example, the material, a website, the 501c3 if you have it, there might be the possibility that this think tank, the people in this room, could merge their efforts with your efforts and take advantage of the synergy between the two groups. Just an idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Something I think we can think about as this process evolves a little bit more and we kind of get some legs under this.
Can everybody hear me?
Yep, I think it's a good segue to you, Andrea.
Okay, great. Coming from, just to let you all know, in addition, I am the president of the Hemp Industries Association, which is the national nonprofit in the United States. In addition, with our sister sort of political arm, Vote Hemp, or as Stephen had said, had the opportunity to be up on Capitol Hill and those types of things. So this year, the Hemp Industries Association, and that's an IES there for the note taker, and Andrea with 2 N's. Anyways, we have this year started our state chapters. It is something brand new, but I'll tell you from being the president of the association and members with HIA for a long time, this is going to be the next leg of what needs to happen in the United States with the HIA as a national association. In addition, the reason why I feel that is because each state is distinctly dealing with their own separate but somewhat collaborative issues that need to occur individually. Too much for one national association to be really doing all of the work in each one of those. So right now we have, oh my goodness, I think we're up to around 10 state chapters and growing. We have quite a few others that are in the process right now of getting themselves out, much like what Everett has already done. So I agree in pulling those forces together. Obviously, these are all issues, but there is membership revenue sharing, all the support that comes from having those state chapters. Having, persons like myself, Eric, being able to Skype in. We've just published a printed farmer's guide, farming and economics guide. Just put together our farming membership and are really working on, putting ourselves in the positions to be at these farm shows, because without the farmers, we don't have an industry, no matter how much we want to produce it. So it gives a change. And allows for groups like yourself to maybe, have the power of the HIA driving membership towards you. In addition, we have these great state leaders that are coming on, just like Joy Beckerman-Maher in the Washington State chapter, who's put together this legislative two-page legislative binder with all the direct links and everything of that sort. And we will be having our national meeting this year down in Kentucky in partnership with the Kentucky Hemp Industries Association. In addition to that, we're putting on, workshop trainings and ways of drawing revenue and really working on how to build that membership base to keep our state chapters alive and position the National Association as being that. So I could see the benefit for the work that Everett and MI-Hemp have done to really fold in really greatly with the HIA so that can be carried forward, especially if we're in a situation where we may lose that. So we don't want to lose the quality integrity that's already been gained by that group.
When is your conference, Andrea?
When is the conference, Andrea?
The conference is in September, I do believe.
But no specific date yet?
You know what, I don't know off the top of my head, I'm sorry. I'll have to come back to you on it. But what we want to do is to investigate this further, email Eric. I'll just go get the link here so everybody can see that for our state chapters. And we can, if that seems fitted, which I definitely think it would be fitted, especially if we're going to need that. Here, let me just send this to you. Okay. Yeah, I mean, listed on our state chapters list, we don't even have New York's not listed yet. Oh, yeah, it is listed there. So New York, Texas, Kentucky, Maine, Mississippi, Nebraska, Tennessee, Washington, and others en route right now. The Florida is getting itself arranged. Okay. I'm just sending over the link. There you
So
go.
before we kind of delve into that a little bit, I think we can make note that there's an opportunity for this work group to work collaboratively with the existing organizations. Just in the interest of everybody's time, I think we continue to we're at a crossroads here. We can continue to explore what we've already covered, or we can kind of delve into a bit more brainstorming around potential, what this group, the synergies and the opportunities that we all see ahead of us. So I just kind of want to take the pulse of the group. Do we want to continue to delve into some of the details we've covered, or do you want to move into the brainstorming piece? We'll go right around the table. What's your, Bob, Robo-Bob? What would you like to do? Brainstorming. Joel?
What are we looking to get out of the brainstorming?
We're going to kind of draft up a straw dog idea where we see certain ideas fitting into a concept. Based on the pieces we've just heard about in the last... Or building, yes.
Or new pieces.
Or new pieces, absolutely.
Okay. Go for it.
Brainstorming?
Yeah, let's kick it out.
Brainstorming? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Looks like
we're on board with brainstorming. Fantastic. Okay. Let me just save this.
So we may have lost Andrea?
Nope, I think she's
multitasking. She's keeping an audio.
And so you guys know there's a copy. I'd like it to come back to Campus Council, please, but it's the hemp industry. It's like a chapter guideline. So you can take a glance at that, and that will be available, so I will answer your question.
Yes, it will.
So the next kind of exercise, maybe Brandy, you and I can quick get prepared for this. Great. So we're just going to take a quick minute to kind of adjust. We're going to throw up a couple of sticky note pads on the wall, and then we're going to start just kind of taking some ideas from the group. As you think of them, you can throw them out, and we'll record them on the sticky notes.
Do you want to peel those off and stick them, or should I put a nail up in the wall? What do you think? Oops, look out.
What do you think? So, yeah,
I think we could start
while we're organizing this, there is a Hemp History Week, June 1 to 7 this year.
Every
Maybe
year.
we can tie
Build
something
that.
in with that. Actually, I don't think this was very much, but enjoy.
I'd love to see that hump. Bob should be floating around that hump.
What would you like me to do?
Well, I noticed when you're sitting there, Bob, you're rocking back and forth to some of your machine.
You got to be kidding me.
No, so I was just wondering if that, does that work with, how do you move that around?
Well, technically, what I do is you have a cursor control. This is so simple, it's ridiculous. You have a cursor control, your down arrow. New to me tonight is actually having two simultaneous experiences. One screen I have notes, and on the third screen I've got the robot type of thing.
Okay, now you're moving backwards.
Right? And if I click the right arrow, I can look at
Okay, nice.
people here, click the left arrow here.
It was just funny that when you were sitting there rocking back and forth, so was your machine.
That's quite interesting. I know that the Segway technology, in order to keep itself balanced,
Maybe that's what it is.
the machine completely stands still, unless, if I wish, I would be able to quote park the device, which is a little button here, which I just clicked on, and you can probably
Oh,
see
there you go, yep.
coming out. Yeah, see it coming out.
Your kickstand came out.
Then I would be able to look at anybody else in the room.
That's right, okay.
Want to grab a Post-it? No, it's
You know, so
okay.
I will not talk myself. I hope.
Oh, Bob, I go up to Lansing quite often. I would love to take you up to Lansing and drop you off on every floor.
Why don't you all just
Let
go
you-
we'll just go get the food?
I would,
Looks like we're ready to rock and roll.
you know, offline, I'm assuming that there's going to be a standard list. We're going to put together some, you know, contact sheet. And
Yeah.
if there is a need, I would be willing and able to maybe put together a simple website to support general activities or the group think tank activity without stepping on anybody's toes, and, you know, depending on some of the options. Many good things can happen. I mean, Andrea has proposed a couple of really interesting things.
So I think that's a really good one to add to our list, technology. So for that, so just note that RoboBob is willing to put on host a website or
Create a
build.
website,
create
create a limited website with functionality and capabilities that you can expand to what you want. Perhaps to support the group now, how about if we defer discussion on that to another meeting? I can show you what I can do for you. Again, no cost, but you just have to be patient with the effort that I can put in. But yes, I would be happy to do that. I would offer also the use of the political robot could be incredibly valuable for another set of purposes, which we can talk about again at another meeting, but you can put that up on the brainstorming to be looked at. And I'm also comfortable keeping my mouth shut and being before too.
And then the political robot, awesome. Anyone else?
Okay, what we really need to do is there are a lot of companies out here already, so it goes under both fundraising and the miscellaneous. But you have the Lansing Center right there, right down from the gap.
Yeah.
You could put together enough industry, because they've already doing this on the West Coast, is getting this put together to bring all the legislatures down and see what the hemp products are. Invite the farmers up. And we put on a hemp expo. With all the companies that are already using this. The way you're going to do this is Lansing is part of the 7th district area, which is our big farming district of Michigan. So pulling all these farmers up to see what they are going to be growing would be the best thing possible. And that's the only way to get them on, because you can show them corn, you can show them hemp, but to really see the products that are coming out of the hemp would get more of them on board quicker, I think.
Can we get producers as well as products to actually be there? I mean, like the people who produce the products, like
The manufacturers, that's what I'm looking
The
for.
manufacturers?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't want just vendors in there selling their stuff. I would rather have,
right. But I was making it.
well, right now you have Lotus has a car out. They've already did the Lotus Eco. I mean, it's getting some of these people, and out of Canada, they got the petrol car. So this is how we do it, is we show them our parts. And we show them the clothing, and we show them the furniture that is being made out of this. I believe most furniture that you're getting at IKEA is made out of hemp being imported right out of China. That's what it is, isn't it?
Is it?
Yes or no? Because they don't have to say once it's put that glue together. I don't believe they have to say if that is wood or if that is hemp, or if it's even questioned when they're importing that stuff. But most all the furniture that is pressed, I am believing, is probably because they're the #1 exporter.
Interesting. So great idea. Hemp Expo at the Lansing Center that's close to our legislators. They can come. We can invite them. We could do panel discussions. I think there's a lot of opportunities to really engage
Yep.
Or
all
what about
sectors.
when it's warm out front of the Capitol? Will they walk the mile, or will they get to the Lansing Center?
Andre,
Go ahead.
oh yeah, just a comment from the HIA side. We have put on farmers called farming symposiums, really driven to what you're speaking at, reaching out to producers. We've had that one of those was in the Loveland area in Colorado, which was really a nice turnout. It was a packed room. It's $15 per ticket to come in with HIA and member support. We had actual processors of hemp foods. David Bronner was there. I was there. We had textile manufacturers there. So it was one evening, really quick. Everybody gave a 30-minute kind of presentation scenario. So you could turn that into more doing a screening of bringing it home, for instance, and something that was said earlier, you could plan this in conjunction with Hemp History Week so that you have sort of that added benefit. Now, with trying to get the Kestrel car does no longer exist, actually. They were really going to trash the molds. I was able to pick those up because they were getting ready to destroy all of that because it's all said and done. The Lotus, absolutely. Are you going to get Lotus to come over? That would be amazing, for sure. But we could look at trying to get some processors, but I think that would be a harder point to grab.
They have a test facility in Ann Arbor. Lotus does.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, so there you go. I mean, I don't know those things. So would they send a representative? That would be awesome.
Andrea, do you have a sample program of what you've just mentioned that you've already run, so we can look at that program and see where we could possibly get a cast locally?
Let me look it up here and see if I could find it.
Okay.
Do you have a website that has this information?
Well, this is all part of what the Hemp Industries Association can help bring to the table.
What is your website?
The HIA.org.
Andrea, I know in Canada, who works with the producers on the farm to do this? And, in the States, we have our Natural Resource Conservation Service technicians, the NRCS technicians. We've got our meat technicians. We have different technical staff within the federal and state agencies. We have our conservation districts. Canada has conservation authorities, but I don't know. Who works with the producers on the farm? Or are they just sort of left to their own devices?
Well, since we have a socialistic environment here, it's maybe handled a little bit differently. I mean, we have one hemp section federally, right? It's underneath the Office of Controlled Substance. That's our hemp section. They don't really deal with any agronomic issues or education on that side. And then each province has its own. You had said OMAFRA earlier. Well, that's only in Ontario, and they don't control industrial hemp at all. you don't apply to OMAFRA for any permission to do industrial hemp. It goes to one office, right, federally. So that's something a little bit differently. Now, if you look at, variety trials and ag extension work, those are conducted from each individual OMAFRA for Ontario or MAFRE for Manitoba, and so on and so forth for each of the other provinces. That money is either gained through those research centers and crop diversification foundation centers or extension services applying for that funding and actually, or working with plant breeders to showcase and do variety trials, for instance, on their varieties. But other than that, any farming advice is coming directly from the contracting companies that are contracting directly with the farmers and providing agronomic advice that way.
What are your thoughts then on, here in Michigan, we have our Michigan State University extensions, and I know that they tend to specialize in different topic areas. Do you see that maybe this could be something we could engage MSU on, or the possibility of doing a program through extension to assist our producers?
Yes, absolutely. I think there's, something that you could do. I was just invited to Nova Scotia and New Brunswick to speak on a little tour they were having called Hemp, Hops, and Hasket Berries. So it was a three speakers talking about these things: hemp, hops, and hasket berries. And I was brought in to do the hour-and-a-half talk about industrial hemp associated with the agronomic or the ag extension services in that province. So absolutely, you could do that and see if they've got any speaking tours coming up, if they need a speaker to come in and talk about hemp farming or something of that sort.
Great.
Andrea, excuse me for interrupting. What is the website again? HIA.org?
thehia.org.
I apologize for the difficulty here. Did you say D or
C? Z, T-H-E.
Yeah, the HIA.org.
Thank you.
And I wanted to circle back, Andrea, on something that you had mentioned before about variety trials. And my little brief bit of research, it looks like there's a specific list of varieties that can be grown in Canada. Do you see us moving towards that same framework, or would we want to be more open and receptive to just letting anyone, or should we be focusing on a particular variety out the gate? What are your senses and thoughts about that?
Well, of course, hemp is underneath a pedigreed seed system. If you look how it is maintained globally underneath OECD regulations looking at pedigreed seed production, and because these varieties do hold plant breeders' rights, they will have to be maintained. Not only that, to hold the integrity and the quality of the cultivar that you're growing, you want to make sure that it is maintained, because what can happen is when you're cultivating, and if you're not maintaining that variety and keeping it true to itself by actually always selecting for what you want in the pedigreed seed production, you could end up, if you were bin running seeds, so growing grain, taking your grain and replanting it, and you keep on doing that, you could come into a situation where you could have spikes in THC, number one. Number two, you could have a decrease in vigor. I mean, I don't know which one's really one or two. You can also have a situation where you have your field, which is supposed to be 50% female, 50% male. If you're not maintaining that, all of a sudden you could end up with a field that was 75% male and 25% female.
So we really need to be aware of setbacks and ordinances, and it sounds, even at the farm scale, we have to be aware of, who is planting what where and that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, in a case of knowing who's planting what where, typically, I mean, if you look at your own pedigreed seed production regulations in Michigan, I'm not sure what those are, something to investigate. to see how pedigreed seed is handled.
Okay.
And then that could easily morph in. Now, talking about the list of approved cultivars, sorry, did I cut somebody off?
I was just going to say, from my research, it looks like Finola, I think that's how you pronounce it, would probably be the best one for us to start off with here in Michigan for research on.
I would beg to, who was that? I'm sorry?
How's that, Rick?
That wouldn't be my advice. If you were paying me to give you consulting, that wouldn't be my advice.
You wouldn't do the Finola?
Honestly, Finola has spikes in THC, and I think it's a bit of a risk. There are other varieties that are, you know, stable, we'll say. We also, interestingly enough, in Canada, if you'll see our list of approved cultivars, Finola is on the watched list because it does have some tendency to spike in THC. Now, it's not enough to get you high. It's like 0.32%, 0.33%. It's less than 1, so it's totally never going to get you high. You can dry it and smoke as much as what you want, and at 0.32%, it's a non-issue. But there are other varieties. If you look at some of the CFX varieties and some of the other varieties that are coming out, I think those are what I would trial. And in the case of a variety trial, we're not just going to bring in Finola. Maybe Finola works, absolutely. We bring it in with the rest. But what I'm doing in my variety trials that are happening in North Dakota is that I'm working with the plant breeders in Canada. I'm bringing all of that grain, that planting seed to one location, i.e. me, and then I'm applying for one export permit, we're applying for one import permit, and that's how the material's coming in. It's a lot cleaner for both the DEA import permit and my export permit going out. So we would look at, you know, let's say you looked at 5 different varieties. For instance, Finola may be one of those.
Would we want to introduce that if it's a problem, though? I mean, if we're going to get our universities to do this, we should fair warn them over some of the instances of what's happening here, only if to waste that time and energy into a product and you get what I consider a genetic drift, isn't it?
Well, not necessarily. Yeah, I mean, somewhat of a genetic drift, but that's a whole nother occurrence in planting, you know, certified seed and then just harvesting for grain. In addition, Finola is not grown in southern Ontario.
Oh, it's not.
Right, and so why is it not grown in southern Ontario? Because it doesn't perform. And I've literally seen Finola in southern Ontario be a foot high.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize that.
Now, with that saying, would that be what happens? Absolutely not. And it could be one of the ones that you could trial so that you could see a comparison, and you never know. I mean, Finola may be like the best variety for the environment. We don't know yet.
So can you talk a little bit more about the trial aspect then? I mean, are we looking at, would we need to acquire land, or would we have to do this on, I mean, public, private? Can you talk about the land ownership piece of this, and you know, pilot in a warehouse versus out in the field, or what might be?
No, I mean, you're talking about an agricultural crop, right? So I'm always thinking, you know, in farming language, right? Because we're definitely, I mean, unless you can sow with a tractor inside the building, I don't think that's really a variety trial. These will happen in the summer, in the field, at an Ag Extension Service office. It could be associated with, like we say, the university, depending on how the licensing structure is put in place within the state. Can a private landowner, because what we'll see here, and a part of Section 7606 of the Farm Bill does say that you can, you know, it doesn't limit you to having private landowners participating in a variety trial, as long as that variety trial is associated with either the state ag department or a place of higher learning.
What about the prisons, since they have the prison farms, and they are secured with barbed wire?
I mean, if it was associated with a place of higher academia or the ag department, I think you could plant it wherever you wanted. I mean, what a way to give inspiration to people in prison. Let them grow industrial hemp. I mean, that's a soul healer right there.
Well, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah. So higher learning would be community college. That would be sufficient.
It could be community colleges, could be, we had Franklin Technical School when I was growing up. They had 2-year programs. They offered a program in horticulture. So it can be, and if you look up section 7606, and I did put the link in the little text box over there, it does state, and it gives a subset number of what it is also, like that higher academia, and what that actually means.
So higher education, basically anything above high school in the United States.
It could be. It could be a technical high school that's doing a 11-12 curriculum with a placement into high school, or is a career certification, I would think.
Yeah, yeah. So it depends on, yeah.
I don't know.
A technical high school. Yeah. Why couldn't it be a technical high school?
Okay.
Read through the section 7606. It's up to some interpretation. And one of the nice things about that is if you look at the word market in that, it does allow you, in this case, to grow out the varieties, take the varieties, do small crushes on them, and then turn around and sell the oil or sell the fiber or something like that.
Isn't that how Kentucky's doing it?
Yeah, I mean that's what's happening with the others. Yeah, I mean is that they're following within the Farm Bill and able to use that depending on whatever research they put in and abide by within the state.
Okay, Michigan State already has done research with industrial hemp. They have documentation in there about the plastics that they've worked with, creating in that. So is that part of this also? Do they have to go from that to the industrial usage?
No, no. I mean, if a school, I mean, if you want to bring in some hemp fiber and you want to make a composite, we can bring in hemp fiber any day of the week. If the school wants to start a project on building with hemp or whatever, we can do that any time of the week. There's a fashion school, they want to bring in textiles. There's no stopping anything of that sort. So there's not saying also that let's just say we go to the animal science department because we're gearing up to get chicken, hemp, parts of the hemp co-products from the processing registered as a chicken feed, right? And that's happening in Canada right now. So if a university wanted to come on board and start doing these same type of trials, they could bring in the hemp oil or a hemp co-product to start incorporating that into the food ration. So it doesn't impact, this is only, the Farm Bill really talks about importation, well, moreover the cultivation of industrial hemp.
Yeah, exactly. You can do anything you want to with imported hemp, but for growing it, we have to go through the Farm Bill and the red tape there.
Do you think we can get any assistance from the Farm Bureau or any other farmers organizations?
As I understand it, the Farmers Union and the Farm Bureau have passed resolutions supporting hemp.
Statewide? Or the
National.
national?
As far as Michigan goes, there are some counties that have proposals for industrial hemp resolutions at the state Farm Bureau, but the state has not passed it yet. They just abide by federal Farm Bureau laws, which they approve it. So by default, they kind of do, but will tell you that they really have no platform either way on it.
But they did. When I was in Washington, I actually got an email from the Farm Bureau, and they gave me the link that they have on their website now. If you look through the Farm Bureau, they did adopt a resolution.
Yeah, National Farm Bureau has.
In
A long
Michigan.
time ago.
Michigan Farm Bureau
Yeah.
too? So we ought to be able to get them to participate in this.
Yes, what they did is they held a 2-day seminar, and one of them dealt with industrial hemp with the farmers already.
Really?
Yes, and that was last month.
And I think that there are opportunities for us to engage these industry groups to present to them about our project concepts and things like that. So
Well, they think I'm still a hippie, so they.
I'd like to see somebody.
I can let everybody know that there is an upcoming, the American Farm Bureau Federation is having their annual meeting coming up in January in San Diego, and then one of our state chapters will be having representation there. Well, we're working on it right now. So, and I just sent a link there about the American Farm Bureau calls to end a federal ban on hemp production. This was just in January 22nd.
Thank you for that. One of the questions that comes up.
You may want to get closer to the phone, Bob.
Well,
You need to move up.
Move your butt speaker closer to the phone.
He's wearing a mic, isn't he?
Have it.
Yeah, but the speaker is over here.
Yeah. Well, only because the phone is right here and you were back. I didn't know if Andrea could hear you or not.
Okay, one of the questions that comes up is politics. Is there a strong level of support to embrace cultivation of hemp here in the United States? Or are there still forces that are trying to subserve but not really allow production to take place? Because all the things you're saying would suggest that the atmosphere, the land, and the people are right to embrace this, but there are obviously issues that are there. Can you speak to that for a second?
There is a Attorney General Bill Schuette from Michigan. His family was in control of Dow Chemical.
Okay, so no
If you
more.
put in his name and cannabis and the war on drugs in your search engine, is going to pull up everything. And what that does, that brings his family into this, which has lobbying that has been done already. I've been told this, that they have been active in Lansing, but they're not really trying to block it much. You want to go after the industrial side of things.
They do, out of Dow Chemical.
I don't know if it's just Dow Chemical, but there has been some lobbying efforts from the chemical companies over there.
What's your take?
Oh, it's famous.
Not in favor. It was just, I was told they were up there. They didn't say whether they were for or against it.
Is there any active opposition?
Not that I know of. Not that anybody has put to me yet. Not even the police.
Dow Chemical Company produced reefer madness.
I think from the perspective of what we're seeing nationally is we're not seeing pushback from companies trying to stop or prevent hemp legislation to put in place. Most of these companies all have green mandates, as most of you know, to start looking at these types of renewable materials. Nice dancing, ladies. So no, we don't see pushback, and we're seeing, more sheriff's office and whatnot actually come on board and be engaged in the process. So that may be something also want to consider reaching out to right away, is engaging those departments immediately. Anybody that we think is going to combat us at all, let's just invite them to the table, and we'll make as many ideas that are ours theirs.
Well, they were in the hearings when me and Everett testified at the Senate or the House Ag Committee meeting. There was like 26 people on the panel when there originally was only 12. Some of those were, the Attorney General's office was in there. I recognize one of those people. And also the state police were in there. It got brought up over, can they hide the marijuana in here? That's always the question. Can you hide your marijuana in that field? And now it's cross-pollination. That degrades everything, and nobody wants seeded pot for recreational or medicinal value. So I was training these people and showing them, but they were receptive because they came up with the questions that they already had the answers to. So later that day, though, I still continued lobbying for the next couple of days up there. And what happened was, I said, do you know anything about hemp? And they said, yeah, we listened to this yesterday. So what they get to do is at special hearings, they get to turn the radio or TV on. If it's on the TV, they can watch these hearings in progress. And every office that I went to that day and the following day, every one of them was tuned into that. And the offices knew what industrial hemp was.
That's exciting.
Went really good between me and everyone.
That's very exciting.
So one group, there was a paper put out by Milton economists endorsing cannabis, and there are about a dozen that have signed and endorsed. I wonder if there's an opportunity to engage our economists to help us develop the economic benefits, or if that's already out there, if we can glean information specifically for Michigan. And would that be helpful to our cause?
As a state, I believe, Andrea, isn't it? It's a niche market. So they really don't have a lot of facts on this, on where it could actually go. So it's kind of up to us to push it to that. Getting these, I'm part of an inventory group. Jackson, they have the Jackson Inventors Group. What they do is they have and make prototypes. They have, now they're putting up what is called the makers, something Ann Arbor has.
Makerspace there.
Makerspace. Yeah, so you can go in and use all the tools and everything else and make your prototypes.
Sure.
So we have, in our inventors group, there's a gentleman that has 3 airplanes in the air now. I got talking to him, hey, let's do this hemp airplane. Let's get involved in this. We got to be the first. Working on a helicopter, I said, let's work on this. Canada already has a hemp airplane coming out. Right, Andrea? Andrea?
Yeah, yeah. Somebody, he's working on something. Is it? Would I say a hemp airplane is coming out? Well, we're not seeing the Kestrel car running today, even though it was once upon a time. So keeping the faith, but we'll see that when we believe it.
Okay.
But I think that, you know, some of the main things here that we can talk about all the things that we want to do, and we want to make the cars, and we want to do all these other things, but we're not going to be able to do anything, number one, if we don't have some sort of the wording in place so that we can apply to get this application to do some variety trials.
And so our current bill does not do that.
You'll have to ask the guys there to comment on that, because I haven't actually read the bill.
Oh, just a copy and paste from the federal. It is more of the guidelines to get the higher education to do the.
Okay. So I mean, I guess from that, if it says, okay, well, if you know, then we'll develop the wording for the application. I mean, you could copy and cut and paste any. You know, look at the Kentucky's application. It's so super simple.
So we can literally model after you say Kentucky's program might be a good program to model after?
South
Yeah,
Dakota,
for instance.
Well,
North Dakota or Kentucky, I mean, let me just see here. I'll just copy and paste this over. For instance, coming on our little thing here, if somebody wants to grab that, there is the link for the Kentucky Ag.
Bob, can you have Andrea share her screen with us?
Well, I just sent it there. He can pull it up. There he goes. So, I mean, it's a real basic. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. It's really a 2-page application. Sorry, let me revert that. It's a 3-page application.
Where's it located under forms?
I'm actually looking at the document, not at the website, so hold on a second.
KYAG.com, Bob.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Is this connected with any particular community college at all?
This is the state ag department. This is how you go about in Kentucky. You fill out that 3-page little application there, and it gets the ball rolling on you getting your hemp license to be facilitated underneath 7606.
Okay.
What's the name? Is it the Hemp Pilot Program?
It's program application from the website.
Yeah, I see here where it says M-Pilot Program.
Right? Hemp pilot program. I'm on the industrial hemp website here. I don't know where's who. So here it is again. I'm just putting it in my chat. Sorry, I don't know I can't post it anywhere else so everybody else could see it.
Bob, you want to on our chat area and bring up that page, please?
I am going to do it as soon as I see your chat.
Andrea, do you know if there's
Open the
any
window.
guidance available for states to use to develop a hemp program, or are they kind of left, again, figure it out for themselves?
You know, every state is different with who's going to control what, so there you go. So then if you see program application on the right, you can scroll down there, and then that's the application. Right now, program application in bold print. Not per se to say that there's any way for, you know, like any set language that's being used, because every state has its own, and depending on how those are or are not intertwined with other cannabis regulations. But this is a really nice, simple application that gets the job done. In allowance with their state regulations.
That's what I've been trying to push the Michigan legislature to do, is follow the Kentucky model. Since I've been working on the T10, I worked on daily on that when they was trying to get the law written up.
Now, as I said, we do have a legislative binder that through the HIA, one of the state chapters has put that together, and she provides that to other chapters.
Existing information that we can use and to bring as part of our act to even have a hemp program that we can help provide some tools and resources to the state.
Yeah, and I mean, in something like this, saying here, look how simple this application is, right? It's not daunting. A state could easily put this in an electronic format to be able, so then, you know, people don't have to hand type information in or whatever. But that's a whole nother thing. I mean, right now, this is how Kentucky's application program is.
Do you have any sense of what the infrastructure behind the application's like, though? Did they just tie it to an existing ag program?
Yeah, they created an office there to deal with this.
We have the Kentucky Hemp Commission reactivated after years of inactivity, and
But there was something there beforehand, is what you're saying, Everett, right?
yeah, the Kentucky Hemp Commission I think existed since back when Kentucky had an actual hemp
Industry.
Would we want to have
industry.
a hemp or a task force or some overarching advisory?
Well, I would believe you would want to.
What do you think we'd want that? Do we have anything we can be? We don't have any legacy of that in Michigan, do you know?
Michigan actually does have a hemp legacy. I don't know that they ever had a commission on it, though.
I don't know about the commission. I haven't heard of one. I haven't read of one.
Find some leaders and
Okay.
Well, my sense would be that the ag
if you're going to put in more regulations,
the governor would be the one to actually develop a commission or some task force to kind of lead or guide this process.
You know what, guys? I mean, in that case, you are the task force right here. I mean, and that's what we're starting to see from within the other, we'll say state chapters in that case. If you look at what's happened in Kentucky, you know, they became the go-to people to be part of this regulatory, you know, body building of information.
Great. We're about 5 minutes over our half hour. I want to kind of check in. Do you want to continue to talk a few more minutes? The idea being that we'll kind of start to organize a concept to move. The only other thing I was going to add, first, I read about the hemp batteries, you know, and so I think that that's something that we've been talking about as an agricultural product, but that's sort of taking it to another level. So I would want to, yeah, the batteries are made of the hemp biochar. And actually the weight.
Is it the plastic housing that is made out of it? The hemp
No,
plastic?
it's the conducting part itself that actually is the power.
Yeah, so I'm really interested in hemp biofuel and biochar because of soil amendments. Biochar is really important. So, you know, hemp sequesters CO2 from the time it grows, even all, you know, developed out of this.
Yeah, on that point, something that disturbs me is the bill says the research has to be concerning growing or cultivating.
Correct. That's
Product
what,
development.
because right
So
now you
that's why
pay
we
for it.
do seed, that's why we're interested in doing this seed variety research, because we can't do research on hempcrete under this bill.
Actually, right now, you can do all the research you want because you can import hemp oil or you get the bales of hemp to make hempcrete. So, I mean, we can build a house right now.
Right.
You don't need any, there's no regulations on it, there's no company. That isn't what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get the farmers involved so that we can produce it here and get rid of the taxes. So you got the tax and tariff of the importing it. So we want to be able to do it right here and you cut that cost, not quite in half, but you cut off quite a bit of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I give out more money to do something that take the plastics and things like that to step out of that.
So as we're developing this pilot then, so we're growing and then we also have to have that stream, that stock, that product.
Yeah, who's
as
going
part
to,
of that. So we need to
you have to actually
decide.
do the industry first because you can always already get the product. Then you need a company that's going to be using that product. Then the farmer is going to farm that.
Or
Get
the
the,
company.
but until you get that guy that's buying that crop, they're not going to farm it. I mean, nobody's going to buy the crop. They're going to buy the corn. They're going to buy the soybean. We got to make it so somebody wants to buy that.
Yeah, create a market.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So see, my plan here is I'm a contractor. So I've got back in the state of Michigan. I'm getting my contracting license back. I don't have to do the continuing education part of it, which is 60 hours to get your license and 8 hours if you're doing your license. Mine lapsed in 2011. I went through colon cancer. I gave it back. But I got back to all of them and said, well, this is what I want to do. So this is how we're going to do it is somebody like me, I'm going to start building a house. I get more hempcrete going. Now I need this. So this is the way that you have to do it is you have to have a need before the farmer's going to do it.
So do you see construction as primary easiest
To start it.
of importing product as opposed to door panels, as opposed to
You can import the
cosmetics?
hemp oil to make plastics out of it.
Okay.
You can go down and get the hemp oil right out of a health food store right now. So can you get it 55-gallon barrels? I'm sure that Hemp Oil Canada has some type of a project going on that. Then it's making that automobile part. As soon as they're able to make that automobile part, find out what the test and the standards are, how is this comparing to a natural oil product, petroleum plastic compared to hemp plastic. And then you get into the, what do I want to call it, the biocomposites. Once you start layering in hemp plastic on top of the hemp fiber, what's the strength of that? And that's what they were doing with the airplane. They already developed some wings for it.
So we wouldn't be able to acquire any of that research that's already been done by
Already-
European companies. That
It's
are
already done
pretty-
at Michigan State University on plastic.
Okay.
So it's sitting there.
You have access to that info? You know
Hey, you just go online and go, hey, Michigan State, and you put in your hemp research, and it's going to pull that research up.
But the key point that you made was the word import.
Correct.
We don't grow it here.
That's right.
And when you look at, has anybody done economics on what the cost differential would be if we grew it here?
I would believe
Roddy or
HIA has. I have not got that information myself, but that some of it, I would believe to Andrea and that company, organization. They have a lot. Both have had a lot on their.
Can you repeat the question, please?
How much is it? have you done research on the cost of importing versus local sources?
Well, there are no local sources, I guess. Is that what you mean, like from the U.S.? Sources of what?
In other words, if we're to convince farmers to grow here or people to buy from local sources, is it the freight that they're saving? I mean, is that the primary component that they're saving is freight, or what's the economic?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at production cost on farm or as, you know, paid employee hours, Canada and the U.S. are pretty much at par with each other. So, I mean, in that case, you're really just looking at saving freight. Now, if you look at something like fiber decortication, you get beyond 100, 150 miles to haul those big bales. It just becomes uneconomical. So hauling grain is another situation, right? You can haul grain a farther distance and get more, you know, with just how much more you could move with your bottom dollar that you're going to make.
What density, yeah.
So I think most of it is just a desire to have local and to try to cut down on some type of freight cost.
But can the product be in the United States at a point that would it be competitive compared to importation?
Well, you drop the tax, you drop the tariff, and you drop the trucking cost, the freight cost.
Well, there is no tariff on it. Depends on if you're talking about a raw hemp ingredient, there's no tariff on that. So, I mean, especially if you're looking on the hemp hurd and bass fiber side. But yeah, I mean, it's mostly just the freight cost. But I'll tell you, like, until you have large scale, like right now, we don't have a large scale, you know, commercial fiber decortication facility in Canada. So honestly, it's cheaper for our clients to import and for us to work with our colleagues in the EU to import it than it is to try to buy material off of a pilot facility that's really only there to help develop industry.
That's interesting.
So will it become economically viable in the United States? Of course. I think if we look at concepts of oil crushing, food protein manufacturing, what the whole market is driven by right now, if we look at that, yes, we're a niche, but when you've got facilities running at an 8+ week lead time to get protein powder and completely sold out and not taking on any new clients, there is huge room for growth.
Is there data that supports that?
Well, I mean, from within the industry, yes.
Okay.
What's driving the market right now, did you say, Andrea? Oil?
Well, I mean, the food is what's driven the market. Food is why we're all still here right now. It's not because Lotus put a couple of hemp fibers and a couple composites on one vehicle.
Yeah, so with that note, I'd like to transition then. I know we had integrated a 10-minute break, but considering we kind of got but I would really like to kind of then take some of these ideas now and begin to kind of whittle down as much as we can an idea developing this. So with that, maybe kind of the highlights that we've come up with. So topic areas with who needs to be involved, about the industries in Canada, the contractors and the companies are really providing the technical assistance for farmers. So maybe our best bet might be to engage MSU Extensions who can provide technical assistance. There may be a need to kind of bring them up to hemp research area. We can work with community colleges or other technical schools according to the Farm Bill language, recognize the need to engage commodities, Farm Bureau, Farm Union, those entities that have already passed resolutions supporting hemp, as well as those that we could give presentations at those organizations. We can work with the Hemp Industry Association to provide some guidance there. We need to engage departments and organizations that might not currently be supportive of our efforts, again, to kind of bring them into the fold. We need to think about engaging economists, maybe through a white paper to help develop what economic benefits of this industry would lend. We absolutely have to engage agriculture, which is Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, who would likely oversee. We need to engage companies that will use the product, creating markets, and the food industry seems to be an area where we might be able to kind of add value to. In terms of chemical, physical, biological, and economic products, the idea of a hemp expo to showcase hemp products, Lotus car, processors. We could have a panel discussion, you know, kind of bring the legislators. We need to do this trial on farm, on a farmstead or university. The prison system came up as a possible opportunity. There was a link shared that we can maybe find some more additional ideas. The idea being a small-scale product development around the trial, so that feedstock right to the product development. MS already has some research there, so we need to explore that a bit more. Emphasizing green mandates. A lot of companies have, you know, be green, think green, so that's an area to further explore. Biofuel, biochar, hempcrete, batteries, textiles, those sorts of things can be developed. So what product area do we want to focus our efforts on? Import versus locally produced. We recognize the importance of locally producing this product versus importing it from Canada or elsewhere. We've got someone, MSU Dearborn economist, that might be able to help guide some of that economic work. Ben, sorry.
Andrea.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Andrea, I got a question. Are you still on the line?
I'm still here.
Okay. When it comes down to the hempcrete now, and I was talking with you over some of this, the builders are getting anxious to get their buildings done, and you said that was one of the problems. How long does it take to cure hempcrete so that it's actually a usable product for a house or a road or the other product?
Well, we're not typically using, I guess one thing, not using hempcrete in a, you know, like as a road material, as that type of concrete. But with that said, part of what has to be incorporated in when you're building with hempcrete, unless you're doing a panelized system off and delivering the panels to the job site cured, is that before you really want to come in and put your render on, it also depends on what you want the house to look like, so that it sets up real good, is around that 3-month time frame.
Okay. And that's where they were getting anxious to get their building done, because they have to let it set for that 3 months to cure.
Yeah, that has to be incorporated in, and it also kind of depends on how, I mean, it depends on where the house is being built at. I mean, is it really dry there? I mean, other types of things come into play. But yes, once that hempcrete goes in, it really needs around 3 months to cure up so that you can come in and put a render on it.
Okay, and that would be more the stucco. Okay.
Yeah, we don't call it stucco in this situation because you're not doing all the wiring and everything of that sort. But yes, the render or the plaster.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
plaster is what we refer to it as.
Yeah.
Back to just summarizing quickly what we've brainstormed in terms of technology, policy, and regulations. We have some technical resources we can tap into by this group. Todd has offered to provide and host a website for this group to continue our work. We've already covered the MSU Ag Extension. We need to think about breeding rights that need to be maintained, so we really have to review the regulations around seed, pedigree seed regulations in Michigan specifically. We need to think about where we would want to plant the hemp for trial, what types of varieties we'll want to select. In terms of the program itself, the idea was that to possibly follow Kentucky or North Dakota's hemp program. HIA has compiled some regulation, policy, and legislative considerations in that binder, so we'll try to get a copy of that.
No, that's that. Just that's shared. That was created by one of our state chapters, shared with other state chapters.
Okay. Great. And
how long does it take to become a chapter?
Not very long. I mean, you guys already have most things in play if you fold together with Everett and, because of having the filing, but it's essentially just getting the filing together and make sure that you're set up in that fashion. So not very long.
Okay. And then just,
what kind of fees are associated with becoming a chapter?
Ray, what would it cost us to be set up a chapter here? Should we end up working with
you've got the guidelines, I think, right in front of you all there. I don't have them right in front of me.
okay, well, we'll get that information. Just to summarize, finish up, we talked about the Hemp Expo. We talked about, kind of the concerns against hemp, so we need to, kind of get a sense and feel for who our partners might be and who we need. We need to think about the importation, the tax and tariff, what are the cost savings if we were to develop this industry domestically, and what sorts of infrastructure do we need to make that happen. So what I'd like to do now is to really talk about what might be kind of start to finish. And maybe, Andrea, you might be able to provide some guidance here for us. In terms of getting a pilot program project started, what's the first thing that we need to think about? Do we need to engage the state? Do we need to develop the concept? What are the, what are some of our first steps that we need to do first?
Well, I mean, honestly, you can't do anything until you've got something in place there with the legislation. So I guess they're kind of simultaneous things that can be happening. Aligning yourself with whomever is going to be conducting and coming on board. So if there is a particular professor or something of that sort, already having them engaged in the process and communicating.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
Align with the university or higher education.
Yeah, aligning yourself with whomever's going to be your champion and be the bullhorn for us in that case.
Possibly MSU seems to be a good fit thus far.
Whomever that's going to be, reach out to their ag department, find a graduate student who's excited about this. I mean, that kind of thing. Let's see if they can incorporate it in. Maybe somebody will just want to pick it up for fun. That sort of thing, so that you're kind of simultaneously saying, like, okay, look, like, we're ready. If we already have our protocol put together, we've already done all the strategic alignment, we understand what we're going to need to do to facilitate underneath the Farm Bill and the DEA and all of those kinds of things. But we can't do that until we have some sort of registration point in process.
So we need to engage the state on a registration process.
I mean, if whatever the language is written right now, and then that turns it over to whatever department it is to put forth those regulations or what that language is going to look like. I mean, it can happen relatively quickly. It just depends on how quick the state acts.
Not in Michigan.
Okay.
In our case, it would most likely be the Department of Agriculture, the way our law is going to be written, from what I've read, that we'll have to go through the application process with.
We won't know who that chair is until after the beginning of the year, when they make the new committees, because our representative is now out.
And by that time, we'll be starting out from scratch.
So we align with the university, we engage the State Department in a registration process, a regulatory framework. In terms of like okay, so that's done now. We're working on our pilot. What are some of those considerations? We mentioned a variety trial. What does that mean? Do you select a suite of varieties and you test them for product development, or how does that play out?
I mean, you're mostly just seeing if they're going to grow there or not. I mean, these are real basic trials. You're just doing maybe one seeding rate, maybe 2 seeding dates, maybe 1. You're just measuring what's the germination, what's its growth rate, and what's its yield. So we don't even have to look at too many parameters, coming off of that. You could do some really just basic research to say, will this variety grow or not?
And in the process, you could use, like for soil remediation, stuff like that as well in the process.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what your research budget is. You could start incorporating more and more things, and you could look at, what's the essential fatty acid profile coming off of these varieties, all of these types of things that you could look at.
Hey, John, I haven't really, what area would we want to think about developing this concept around then? Would it be for, the seed production, for biofuel, or phytoremediation? What might be our path of least resistance or best opportunity to kind of step forward with our, best step forward, I guess?
The better question is there a list of what other states or universities are now researching? Because we really don't want to do the same research in 5 different states. If we want to present something, we can present it as, well, this state's doing this state's doing this. Why don't we do this? So one's doing fuel. Why have 5 people doing fuel?
Well, like Kentucky's doing, they're just doing a basic research right now on growth, see how it grows, like Andrea's saying, what variety might work best, and going from there.
The other issue is the value proposition, because once again, we all listen to the same radio station, WIFM, what's in it for me? And my question is, one of the earliest steps should be something that provides a very clear, concise, can I say, consumable economic reason for doing this, and what kind of return on investments you're going to get, because that's really going to be one of the compelling supportive issues to make it exciting enough to do it. I mean, we're not just doing this for our philosophical perspectives or what possibilities for the future, but how do you convince a large group of people this is something serious economically to consider? Am I wrong?
Issue, Bob. You're getting echoed through the phone. It sounds like you might have an open mic there.
You want to go through the phone, though, correct?
All right, let me...
One or the other.
Okay, is this better?
Much better.
Okay. Once again, real quickly, what is so important...
We heard what you said.
I'm sorry?
That might be better if I was on the phone.
I'm sorry?
So I want to kind
We're
of...
good. You're all set.
We're good.
Okay.
So our pilot project needs to really focus on, and we need to keep it basic. We need to select a variety that we can work with, that we can produce some sort of a product or proof of concept, whether it be the technology around that or the actual food, the stock, whatever. That's kind of what I'm hearing. But we need to have that value proposition considered.
Well, and if you look at sort of direct market flow, I mean, right now you could step right into a grain supply industry. Because we need to have the, the investment dollars be able to come in to build a fiber decortication facility. So number one is if you wanted to bring in varieties that were going to be, in a variety trial, whatever, you bring in three grain varieties, they may be dual purpose there, you have no idea what they're going to look like there. And we're not going to have any farmer cultivate anything, no matter how much we tell him that there's a market for it, if he doesn't know the cultivar is going to grow.
So that's really, that's it. We just want want to be able to grow in order to know if it's a viable crop here in Michigan.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's so key because then we'll be able to actually have the producer base, because it kind of comes back, whatever, the chicken and the egg. We can tell the automotive people how great it is. They can do some testing on their own, but then they're going to say, oh, well, if we don't have a supply, you know, and we don't have this variety that's going to grow, you know, and without the farmers, we have nothing.
Right.
How many acres? What are you looking at for a pilot program?
Oh, gosh, you can do a variety trial on a half acre.
What are the rest of the states doing?
Though they all vary depending on what their own internal regulations are. And, you know, right now there's only been 2 states that have legally brought in underneath the Farm Bill. There will be a few more this year, but most of those are looking at, you know, very basic protocol for agronomic trials that are used in all kinds of other cropping systems also. Just a basic variety trial, random plot design, super, super simple, just to see is it going to grow or not.
Do we have a supplier to get the seeds from?
Yeah, I can help facilitate that, yes. As long as it's with all of the proper the paperwork in place, there's no problem with sourcing varieties to do trials as long as it's done legitimately.
Great. So are there any other, so we've got our align with the university, we need to engage the regulatory agencies, we need to develop our pilot concept, likely keep it simple, select a couple varieties. We need to, you know, develop a producer education so that our farmers become familiar with the crop and engaged, and we can get access from the MIHA for the seeds that we would need once the regulatory framework's in place for that to happen. Are there any other things that we need to think about as we develop our concept further?
We need to really keep pushing education. I'm making hemp in the household word, so everybody, you know, you talk, you're not going out here in the street, we're still not talking to people who say, you ask them what about industrial hemp, and they say, what's that? Or they say, oh, I don't agree with marijuana. We still got a long way to go on that, but we've come a long way in the last few years, so that's something we need to not lose focus on, is to keep that education going.
That's where our Hemp Week, our Hemp Expo, our engagement with the university community, engaging our legislators, engaging interest groups and so forth will come into play. Anything else?
As well as the general public and getting, you know, anything in op-ads in newspapers, editorials, whatever you can get, or it's something as simple as standing on the side of the street and handing out brochures.
Work with MIHA. Work with MIHA.
If we work, Andrea, if we work towards getting that expo for Hemp Week, HIA have any vendors or a vendors list for a committee to contact to try to set this up now?
Yeah, we can explore their website maybe?
Yeah, I mean, also, I mean, as members, you can put it out in the newsletter. I mean, those types of things. As members, you gain access to all the member lists, so you could be able to solicit any member that you wanted to participate in that. And also, I think if you combine that, if you look at doing something during Hemp History Week, let's just say right now you register saying we're going to do an event for Hemp History Week, and make that in combination. You have a lot more power what's going on. Whole Foods are running specials. Companies are already running internal specials for Hemp History Week, so that can help drive energy.
When is National Hemp History Week?
First week of June. First week of June, second week of June.
And first week of June, I do believe.
June 1 to 7.
And another thing you can do, like we did at MIHA a few years ago here in Atlanta where I live, we rented a Senior Citizens Hall set it up, invited county commissioners and stuff in, and the public. We had hemp samples and product displays and stuff like that. And we had people driving as far as from Detroit, Ohio up here for that. And if we could do something like that down there in the southern part of Michigan where you got a lot more population, you could go a long way there too.
Well, that's why we were talking about right in Lansing so the legislature can come down.
I want to just give a little 2 points on that. I don't know if legislators are going to go to an expo, but I think the general public will. I think it would be more valuable to host a education launch or 2 hours with the legislature, invite all the staff. That's what I've done previously with other issues, and that's the only time I've ever been able to get them all together. Ones who show up, great. The ones who don't, they missed out. We still visit their offices and drop off packets. It's a great idea.
Yeah, I think you could organize your own lobby day.
Right, that's a great idea too. So just in the interest of time, we're pretty much at time now. One of the things I wanted to cover was, is everyone supportive with the concept that we've developed thus far?
Yes, I really like the idea of getting an economist, a PhD, to write that white paper because I see it as ammunition for a lot of the other things that we can accomplish.
Do you have any legislative information to HIA if we decide to join that group? So we don't have to reinvent the wheel, other than that binder?
Yes. And then what do you mean, like actual distinct language?
Well, as they're saying, they're looking for a PhD and an economist to write up these papers. Are these papers already written that we can use?
I'll say one thing about the economy part of it. I'm asked this all the time, and I told this to a reporter 2 days ago on the phone. Everybody wants to know how much can I bring into Michigan. The only answer we really have is all we can do is look at what's happened in Canada and go from there, because it's been more than 60 years since we've been allowed to grow it in the United States. So we really have no idea what it's going to do as far as how much money it's going to bring in for farmers or anything like that. It's unknown. There's no way to really accurately.
Yeah, good point. So just to kind of wrap this up, then the next step will be I'm willing to take a crack at drafting up an outline based on what we've talked about, capturing each of the kind of the themes, categories. These will be kind of sort of parking lots at this point about our approach, but with the idea that these could be ideas that we can tap into this concept. And just kind of go from there and get a sense and feel for who might be our best partners. I think there's some opportunity from folks that weren't here today that might be able to help us flush out some of this. Juliet, the economist with U of M Dearborn, maybe we can get her to work on the white paper concept. Brian Schultz, the gentleman that I had invited to the group, was unable to attend, but he's an ex-professor, retired professor at Grand Rapids Community College. He's, into biofuels, and so he might have an interest or some connections that we can make happen.
Yeah, and I think also if you look at one interesting thing to compile, if we want to look about where we'd sell this material out there, is let's start a list of who are the oil crushers, who are the flour millers, who are the seed cleaners. These types of entities are really where we're going to want to know where our product's going to go. And start aligning ourselves with these people also.
Yes, that's a great point. Start generating a list of our partners and those we need to bring into the fold.
Right, I mean your industry stakeholders, these are people who may be peripheral to what's happening but still definitely engaged.
Yes. That's great.
Because I have seen industrial hemp seed cleaning actually save seed cleaning companies here in the prairies.
Great. So so with that, maybe what we can do is Bob, Robobob, yes. hi. Maybe
Roll
I can
that
work.
down.
I'm sorry, that's probably not very nice, but it's a compliment.
Hello.
And maybe you and I
Leaving
can work
again.
together to get, you're going to, towards developing that website. I don't know if anybody else would be interested in maybe working as a small team to make that happen. And
I think there's some organizational issues that have to be determined. For example, creating a structure within this think tank and making some organizational decisions.
okay.
And I would encourage that should be part of the infrastructure issues that are worked on, in the next several meetings. Another thing is, how often does this group want to meet? Keeping in mind, too, that the holiday season is right on us. And
Yeah.
think about some of those and fold that into a one-year strategic plan with clear objectives, clear goals, and then the objectives for each of those goals.
Yeah,
And
for
then
sure.
start the staff building issues, because again, nothing's going to move forward until there's a commitment of X number of hours per week per person engaging in these particular tasks, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not saying anything people don't already know.
So that's a fair
Thank
point.
you.
And then, so the idea is that we'll develop the concept, and then then we can go from there to decide who wants to be engaged, who we need to have engaged, with the idea then framework put in the infrastructure to kind of move it forward
Points well taken.
with a strategic plan. I think that's a great idea. We
I'm
have to
back.
get
I got disconnected.
We have to, though, first.
Since I'm a month old, like August, let me see, October 31st, it's been a month, 30 days into this, right? Since I haven't even met Everett, other than, thank goodness, we were able to bring him in on the phone, and I really see that his beginning in his work, and including your seat, is certainly our energy that we are continuing in some regards. Everett, I'd be interested in what your vision for this group that is collected would be relative to what you would like us to do. I mean, I don't know if we take 100% of what you're going to say, but I would certainly, since I see you as being someone who started this, what would you like us to do? Do you see us going on behalf of your energy?
I didn't get to hear all of it because I got disconnected and I just came back. But
Okay. What I said was I mostly gave you honor for having started what I think the beginnings of industrial hemp in Michigan is, at least me in my 30 days old in this process. But with that being said, and understanding that you are needing to withdraw from a sense of 100% leadership, since we have collected ourselves around you and the phone at this point, what direction would you give us if you had your way?
if I had my way, MIHA-Think would keep going strong, and I could still stay on board, but it's getting to a point where I don't see that happening. I would like to see MIHA-Think, or industrial hemp in Michigan, move forward and get this bill passed this year, and next year maybe get a farming bill. That would be my big goal.
Would you be willing to let us take the organization that you've begun with its not-for-profit funding structure and adopt it to our effort? Are you that willing to take us forward with what you've begun?
Yeah, I would on some conditions. I would like it to stay an industrial hemp-only organization and stay out of the medical and recreational debates. And because I feel MIHA-Think is more of a farming group than anything else, because that's what I started for, was to fight for the farmer's right to grow. And that would be my biggest concerns, is just that it stays among that and not get involved with, signing a contract with somebody that's going to give you money and then they start laying stipulations on you or something like that, because we had a little issue with something like that, and we had to put the brakes on that. So
Okay, I understand your dedication. We're not even a formal organization where we would vote in any capacity to give you assurance other than our individual saying, I don't have a problem with your direction. I think there's enough support in medical marijuana. I don't think that's the nature of this group. That's what I see. If that's your major condition, I don't know, would you would accept agreement to that by the body that's in this room at this time, or we want something more formal?
Harold, let me point out the HIA already requires that.
That's right.
Okay.
I mean, that's part of the HI. That's why I couldn't be on the board of that, only because I believe in the plan. So I lobby for both.
I see.
So I can't not do that. And that's what some of this stuff in the past has been.
Okay.
Well, we'll give you money and that, and you come on, but you can't talk about legalization. Well, I'm not going to go that way because it's important to get the whole plan.
So
legal.
in order to satisfy Everett's request, we need to go offline, come up with our own structure, and then be able to figure out what we're doing.
Let me ask you this. Are you going to join HIA if we become HIA and get away from Michigan House?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd probably join.
Okay.
I've said I want to retire when these bills are done, but you never truly retire from this. I mean, it's always going to be a part of me. I think I'll always be involved. I just don't have the time, and I don't think the talent to really push it forward the way it needs to go now.
That's it. I see it growing with the extra help from HIA. We're not going to go anywhere as the unit that we are right now. Michigan Hemp is not going to grow. If they were going to grow, they would have done it by now. And if we have other people that already have this information around the United States that will help us, I think it's better to move forward that way. It's going to take a different board to do this. Our board is now basically resigned. That's what you were doing there, telling us all that at the end of this year, whether this makes it or not, you're kind of out of it, correct?
Yeah, the mainly reason is because I just can't do everything myself the way I have been in the past. Like I've been the treasurer, executive director, running around the state and everything like that, and I just can't do it anymore. I'm going to have to step back some.
Just have to find somebody that's going to take this organization over.
HIA rules say members must agree not to be involved in the promotion of marijuana. So I don't even know if I could be a member of the HIA, and certainly not an
Well,
officer,
I believe that is by lobbying with the HIA name, correct, Andrea?
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, I'm a whole cannabis health believer, right? Absolutely, and definitely will say, that I stand up for the rights to total cannabis activists, but I'm not standing on a marijuana platform holding my HIA flag.
for sure.
So, and I think there's more and more crossover as we start to look at, what's happening in the whole scope of other cannabinoids and those types of scenarios. So we're in a flux where, there is going to be somewhat of a crossover that we in the hemp industry will be in a position to work underneath medical cannabis regulations. It's just the fact of all be all. I mean, look at what's happened in my home state of Missouri. Emergency CBD legislation put in place. And I'm getting so tired of people only being in a CBD bubble because there's so many cannabinoids. Anyways, emergency measure put in place. It legally defines industrial hemp, but it says you can only take CBD. So what does that mean for me? What, can I not help in the state of Missouri? I'm sorry, I will, even as a president of this association, will definitely help facilitate that, even though it's not our typical agricultural base concept of industrial hemp. But I think that's really put there so that we can still, as these associations, really, we're there to focus on industrial hemp. When we walk outside of that association and we want to work within the law to facilitate medical cannabis, I feel that as an individual person, you have every right to do so.
Exactly.
Okay, so me and Matt, since we're both on the board for Michigan Normal, we can also be on the board for HIA, Michigan.
I wouldn't see why you would not be able to. Because you're not, when you're on that HIA, when you're on the normal board, you're not there representing the HIA, are you?
And that's, I just want to make sure, since you're the
I mean, and
president,
that's in my
half the
opinion.
class.
Yeah, that's in my opinion, and I would stand beside any state chapter member to be able to continue to support the rights to, you know, whole cannabis health lifestyle.
Right on.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Bring your expertise and your time to us. Thank you.
Hey, you're welcome. Okay, I'm signing off now. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good one. Well, next time, eh?
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you. It was nice meeting you.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye.
And so we can probably schedule further through email.
Yeah, so now it's just down to kind of, even if I want to get out of this as the board.
On the phone, right?
Yeah, you start.
Everett still there? Everett?
Yeah, I'm here.
There you are. Okay.
Yep.
I have two mindsets in this, is that the MIHA-Think exists, that has a 501c3, it has a legacy that should be continued. It's a statewide organization. So I think, exists on its own, whether the HIA doesn't or not. And I think that there are parallel organizations like national
But there won't be
organizations.
anybody working that if we're working HIA.
No, I think that you gain strength through both, and maybe not the same people are on the same board. Like maybe you don't have to be on every board.
Oh, I
But
know.
you could be on the board of MIHA and assist with HIA work.
I see the 501c3 as a way to raise money to handle
Right.
the fees that they have to join this national organization.
That's not a bad idea.
Well, no. I mean, that's the vehicle. I mean, and how we end up choosing our own model on the national org to choose our affiliation with industry and producers or students or whatever, whether we end up basically taking their training that they're charging for and we deliver it and take our cut. We have to figure out the flow. We have to figure out what the training products are. But what I see as an opportunity is trying to use the 501c3 as a way to have us join this other organization, or at least not have us have to come out of pocket.
And it gives us access to funding.
Well, Michigan
Because
doesn't
oftentimes-
have any money.
No.
I mean,
Well,
No.
well, that's why you end up having to
I meant
bundle the whole
501c3. 501c3 gives you access and eligibility to seek funding. So as those funding, sorry, I'm talking with a mouthful,
take your time, chew,
but as
breathe.
funding becomes available, oftentimes you have to be 501c3 in order to be eligible to get that money, to access it, to even apply for the funding. So
Well, you also have the advantage of going for crowdfunding because first and second, there's a move here in Michigan.
Ooh, you do it so well.
What I was going to try to say is that you've got an opportunity for taking advantage of some new Michigan legislation that is either taking place or has taken place, expanding the Michigan crowdfunding for projects right here in Michigan. Second of all, because you are a 501c3, you have a possibility of attracting a larger public audience, and most importantly, if the growers can see the economic benefit, then you can be raising money from that group too.
And just supporters aren't growers who are just hemp supporters.
That is
Maybe
correct.
And we'll take their money.
I don't think so. Because I think we really are needing to distinguish ourselves, and I think some of your colleagues here around the table, Joel, have made it clear. And I think Brandy's point was very well taken, as well as, Michelle. So.
When I do my lobbying, I know which is which.
Good.
And I make sure they know which is which. And that's part of it is they don't know how to distinguish things yet.
Right, and that's where the education has to come in. Right.
For the state.
Right, exactly, and that's where your education issues and the lobbying issues, and that's where we as a group sitting around this table can enhance the number of people we've got, as well as forming the structure and support, then a lot of things could get done.
Well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm still going to finish this thing out because I don't stop in the middle. I want to get these bills passed. That's all there is to it.
Yeah,
Still
Steve,
working on it. Daily.
You need to wrap this up because Steve and I have another conference call.
When's the next meeting?
Oh, maybe send out a doodle poll or something like that, maybe, to the group
Sounds
after the
good.
holidays.
That's what I was going to say. Why don't you set up once a month, because we have a twice a month board meeting with Mr. Normal. I can do one on him a month.
We're just
It can't be on a first or third Monday.
Or both meetings long.
They should not be the same time. This isn't not
Yeah.
the same time.
Okay.
The other board meeting's 2 hours
Usually
long
Monday.
also.
But we can change the other. That's the only day that works for you, Michelle?
Oh, I thought you meant
Remote.
both meetings. I mean, I could access remote. I don't have a fancy gadget like that, but, you know, I can patch
Or
it.
we can-
Yeah, we all get one of them if we join. I want one of them for my wife. She's
Hey, Bob,
upstairs, I'm downstairs.
I think that was you and Nancy.
Yeah, hey,
Well,
someone's
You
down
don't start for me. Don't start. Your sidekick. I wouldn't have to go anywhere.
Well, quite frankly, there's some technology that would really help out. So if it's appropriate, we'll go forward.
Okay.
Great. Thank you for joining us.
It was an
Thank you
honor
very
and
much.
pleasure.
It was a pleasure meeting you, Bob.
All right. All right. Thank you so much.
So glad to meet you, Bob.
Okay, thank you. I'll go ahead with your permission to go ahead and kill.
Half of it.
Okay.
Just going in the pot. I mean,
You
you're
can
paying
call,
for it.
email
You sure
me
you don't-
anytime.
it's just a-
Okay, and thank you. It was such a pleasure to meet you. Okay. All right. Take care.
All right, take care, Bob.
Pleasure talking to you, Bob.
All right.
Oh,
All right,
oh, I
bye-bye.
mean, This is much
And
better than
thank
the
you to
library.
Joel
A little
for
bizarre,
hosting
but
us.
it's okay. Are people